For the delay.
It's
Sorry for the delay here. Actually, I have the wrong background here. Alex just made me notice. There you are. That's the correct background. Sorry for the delay. I had technical issues with my microphone, as you can imagine. That's why I didn't change the background, but we are here nonetheless. And Alex, thank you so much for your patience with the technical issues. I hope you had a good day, and we're definitely going to talk about something interesting today. How have you been, Alex?
since we spoke, no, very good. And since our last call, I guess chat last week, no, very good. It's been busy.
Yeah, and then it has been an interesting week with a lot of changes. Google announcing also that they're going to focus a lot more on AI-driven result on search, which is something we might have to talk about in one of our upcoming episodes. But today, we talk about communities and community engagement. And the reason why we chose this topic is because Google has said that new content, the fresh content, is what they're looking for on search. And communities is where you find that authentic new content, but it is user driven. So there must be an opportunity for firms to tap into that. Alex, what's your take? Like, this was a topic you strongly suggested and felt strong about because, and I agree with you. Where do you think community engagement is going in digital marketing?
I mean, I think like number one here, I think like the caveat here, and I mean we'll get there, and it's sort of a segue from Google's little session Tuesday, and I think like the particular like community that we sort of are going to speak more about as you sort of looked at in terms of like the title and so forth as well. It would be is Reddit, but also some of the other ones. Um, but I think Reddit, per definition, is very interesting because they actually struck a deal with Google, a commercial deal with Google to actually have a higher ranked sort of content in exchange for Google training Gemini on it. So it's actually also a caveat to that. So it's a really good opportunity at the moment to sort of use Reddit and sort of subreddits. But sort of no matter what, I think this is sort of almost like we're starting to talk like in a series that are all like cross related. And like last week we spoke a bit more about like content and on this side, and I think like it's very important to sort of realize that authentic content is key. And I
But
think like
Alex,
you can't get it more authentic. Yeah.
when it comes to Reddit, right? Like, that's definitely one of the platforms where you're gonna find unbiased opinions about brands, right? Like opinions that are really strong and really opinionated. That's what Reddit is known for. And usually, when a client asked me in the past, "Do I need to be on Reddit?" my answer always was, Reddit is a double-edged sword. If you're not ready to really talk about your brand, actively defend your brand, but if you don't do things with 100% transparency, you are gonna receive a backfire from Reddit, because the Reddit community is not going to just like talk nice about your brand. They're gonna really in depth analyze everything you do. So with Reddit striking this deal with Google, which I will talk later because I have a question about that too. Now, of course, brands are gonna rush to Reddit, right? But there could be an immense backfire, because unless you have the manpower and the strategy behind that, Reddit users are gonna tear you apart. So, would you agree on
I
that?
think that's going back to like the segueing back to like I think trustworthy, authentic content. And I think once we sort of stepped into sort of this social economy, where people can opinionate. I mean, I think Reddit has sort of sailed up as one of the strongest ones, where you actually have an entire literally website with sub sort of sections in terms of topics that is literally self-moderated by its users, and that's really cool. So it's actually you're sort of part of it, and you moderate it together, and you can literally vote people out because they are either breaking some of the rules of engagement. But I think like they've really reached like the epicenter of what the social economy really was about, of authenticity and sort of also staying within the lines of the topic. So I mean, I've used Reddit many times to also find a lot of information that you wouldn't find elsewhere. And
That is true, but for example, right? Let's think about how a firm can take advantage of that. Because here's the deal: on communities, it cannot be salesy, right? And that's where companies tends to go. But how are people gonna perceive a point of view on a firm on a topic when clearly your point of view is biased by the firm you run, right? So, for example, if you're asking a digital marketing expert, that's pretty easy, like pretty much there are current of thoughts. But when it comes to more technical things, there is a very strong likelihood to get into disagreement. So, for example, let's think about the finance world, where traders have very different opinion on similar topics. There is gonna be the risk of replying to somebody, but getting in an argument basically with somebody, but not replying to somebody might be perceived as your brand as something to hide. So it's gonna be a fine line finding the right balance there, right?
for sure, and I think before Reddit was, I guess, viewed in a certain way, and probably a place where a lot of brands may never really go to. Um, but I think now it's also becoming, I think, more of a public sort of platform. They're getting themselves ready for an IPO. It's there's a lot of things happening in terms of dynamics behind Reddit as well that most likely will open it up from being maybe what they have been to be something much of a bigger one. But yes, I agree with you. But this is part of the social media and building a community. I mean, the worst thing that you can have as a brand is actually really poor brand sentiment in your own community, and you actually don't really adhere to what your users say. That's really poor manners and actually not really respecting the people that actually take the time to write to you. And
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think it's gonna be very interesting to see how this whole experiment goes, because I feel that I've always said, when I spoke to my clients, I was like, you guys need to be more engaged with your audience, and the first way you engage is, of course, the reply to reviews. It goes back to the basics. Like, you get a review, you reply, do not just say thank, like do something customized. Now we are getting toward the system where being part of a community is gonna have a direct impact on the results of your organic traffic. We don't know to what extent, but it is going to, right? So now, the point of view is that first of all, you need to have somebody in the company that is very knowledgeable about the company, because you cannot simply take, let's say, I Rocco, and you are a company that does trading. I don't know about technical trading. I don't know about all the nitty gritty stuff that traders talk about. I can definitely not run the Reddit community for that company. So now you need to find an internal resource, if you are a very technical company, that can handle that, but a person that is also very smart with emotional intelligence, and now to interact with the community. And that is going to have a direct impact to SEO. Now, the SEO guy needs to work side by side with that person to tell them do's and don'ts. So it's going to be very interesting, because the result of that is not going to only going to be rankings, it's going to be branding. Brand value is going to be brand perception. It is going to become part of the brand voice.
I mean, my perception here is very different, I guess, or similar but yet different. And I think like part of why this topic sort of emerged was actually that I mean, many companies, we also do a lot of this, like preparation. It might actually be like to do a very sophisticated, YouTube video to sort of show like a release of a new feature for a client, or it might be that hours upon hours, both research, but then also skills, experience are being put into a content or a blog post or a piece of a website.
Yeah.
And that often doesn't get sort of the attention it really requires or needs, and actually deserves for that matter.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of content creators in today's world and marketeers that don't adhere to what you're saying. Like, okay, when you're on Reddit, you can actually sort of present sort of what you have, but you need to do it in the light of the subreddit and sort of with the, in the context of those rules of engagement that have been preset.
Yeah.
And it's similar. Like Facebook, they have their rules of engagement when it comes to content. LinkedIn has their rules of engagement when it comes to content, even though they keep changing it. um, YouTube has their own, Insta has their own, and so I think like I'm seeing it as a very it's an amazing way of, per definition, syndicating content for brands if done right. But yes, you're very right here, Rocco. It can backfire tremendously.
Because I feel, Alex, all the platforms you mentioned, and that's why feel very strongly about the importance of Reddit. Facebook, you can hide comments to your post. If the post, there are a lot of defense mechanisms for brand. Reddit is more like once you join the conversation, you cannot take back, and you cannot hide. It's much more, let's say, open there. Now, the other thing that it's going to happen, there is no way to go around that, is to figure out how Reddit it is going to deal with bots, or more than bots, people that are there and paid to talk down a brand. Because it's gonna happen. Brands
Yeah.
don't behave ethically, so it's gonna be very interesting to see how they handle that, which is also brings me to the point of, when it comes to Reddit, how are they making sure that the conversations now that are going to be used to rank a result, and that result is going to influence a buyer decision, are not going to be impacted positively or negatively by comments that are not really generated by an authentic user, like without washing out or washing down the value, the quality of the platform.
But then again, part of the, being paid to talk down on a brand, for example, I mean, again, rules of engagement, talking down on a brand, again, you need you can, you have mechanisms to also create that sort of authenticity. I mean, so from that sort of point of view, there are sort of so many ways that have been built in over the years. Reddit is, they didn't come around yesterday and sort of became this colossal. I mean, it's been built upon years.
I know that is true, but you can say the same about Google. Google is one of the largest companies in the world, and sometimes, I'm sure it happened to your clients, Mr. Smith with zero review left goes to the profile of your client, help them how horrible of an experience he had, and there is no way to get the review off, even though it's clearly a fake. So
Yeah, I mean that, I think like that is something that we're living. It's a common, trolls are a common thing sort of that is happening, and I think more and more people, they are aware of exactly that.
Wouldn't
But
it be nice to have a system where they track negative versus positive comments you leave? And if you only leave negative stuff, if you only go on social media to talk bad, whether you're a troll or not, you should have a rank where people know that you never said something good about anything.
And but that's again like you open up another email address and then boom, you're Mr. X instead
Oh, but you're
instead of
gonna go.
you're Mr.
Yeah.
Y. So it doesn't matter. Or you in today's world you have an AI. You set up an AI avatar that sort of does what you tell it to do.
So, Alex, do you think we need to have, ideally in the near future, some sort of system where the only way you're allowed on social media is to a verified profile with your ID? Because honestly, we are getting to the point where social media is kind of the real world, right? We have never met in person. We've worked together for 12 years, and we are on LinkedIn right now on social media. So technically, if I want, we should get to the point where to have a social media profile on each platform, you can have only one. It's going to be linked to your ID, because how can you guarantee authenticity of the information without actually having a guarantee that the information is tied up to a real person? Like, I just feel that no matter how you spin it, you're going to go back to, there are going to be trolls that are going to impact what Reddit is trying to do with Google.
For sure. And I mean, I think the ones that really succeeded in this, I think just in terms of playing on the social economy, is another small company called Airbnb.
Yeah.
So I'm an Airbnb host, for example. As part of that, you actually know who's coming, what individual. They've used an official ID to identify themselves.
Yeah.
And the entire Airbnb algorithm is built upon what others have sort of said about you after staying at your place.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting dynamic, and yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that we'll get there, because yeah, I mean, the world is pretty crazy as it is at the moment, because there are a lot of nameless people saying a lot of crazy things with intention.
Yeah,
And
because I think you're right. It's important, because honestly, when I read the announcement from Google, I was a little bit upset. And the reason why I was upset, nothing to do with my work, it has to do with the fact. So you're telling me that all I have to do to rank first on Google is to strike a deal with Google, and then all of a sudden my results are gonna be up top because Google is running a test with me. They're kind of messed up, right? It's a little bit messed up considering that them being up top, what does it mean? Somebody else is gonna be pushed down that is investing thousands of dollars into SEO. But if you're doing that, if you do it right, now it's an opportunity for me because I can much faster rank on Reddit than on my own website.
ex- exactly, but I think like there, I think the point again why I brought up this topic, because it's very current.
Yeah.
I think everyone has been so focused, at least when it comes to the search engine result page on Google, and more on what has been happening on the March update.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people might have thought that Reddit, why they will go away. It's just part of like the algorithmic update that will sort of correct itself, and then Reddit will go away. But then when you like start reading about it, okay, well, actually they struck a deal, Google, and they're putting a lot more weighting on Reddit results, and that's why Reddit is actually now ranking much higher. I mean, either number one or number two, for that matter. It's beating Wikipedia. And a as a marketeer or a business owner, this is a great opportunity if you have the stomach for it, as you sort of clearly pointed out there, Rocco. Um, but also, I think this was, at least from my point of view, um, if you have strong content that you believe in, you're a company, you deliver value. Because I mean, if you are, as a company, you are supposed to deliver value, and if you truly believe that, um, Reddit should be a perfect outlet for that. But you need to then slowly but surely getting to know and understand the rules of engagement, and it is a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, the biggest danger are marketers though, because we are both marketers, and I'm not gonna lie, marketers, they destroy everything that is good. The moment marketers know there is an opportunity on Reddit, there is no way that this is gonna be done in an ethical way. There is gonna be people taking advantage of it, washing down the quality of the platform. Just look at Google and AI. When AI came to be, Google's search results were so bad that they had to do a whole update of their algorithm, because literally it had become useless to look at the search results with all of the AI generated content. So now my fear is that Reddit is an opportunity. A lot of marketers are going to start creating subreddits, things that are going to just dirty the platform, unless there is, of course, a plan of action that they put in place. And I think part of that plan of action is going to be putting very strong limitations from day one to allow that content to be useful, to go along with what Google is trying to do, basically. Because right now, Alex, I want to know something. I type the word on Google, I type Reddit, and I'm gonna find a subreddit that is going to be so useful. And it could be as simple as finding a good restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, or as serious as what should I buy, this camera or this camera. I'm going to find the subreddit. Now, I do not want to look for a camera and comparison and find 15 subreddits, all created by marketers with very little engagement. And then I need to scroll through all the content that I can find to find one that has engagement that is worth doing. And then that engagement is going to be populated by trolls. It's like, I don't want it to get there. So I hope they have a plan of actually handling that, because of, you want to be there, but you want to be there in a quality conversation.
100%. And I think like where it'll be very interesting to observe. I mean, I mean, to be fully transparent here, I mean, we're actually making some plans to start rolling out with some of the brands that are very very suitable for some of these subreddits. They speak to a particular niche, that the product, they know their audience very well, they know their users very well, they know the goods, they know their bads, they already have an extremely strong Discord presence. And Reddit is almost like taking just a greater leap and sort of almost increasing more the awareness of what they're doing, because they can get it almost for free. And so it's not much cost involved either. So it's more value for end users. But so I'm opening it up, being fully transparent, that I think that it is an opportunity right here, right now. But I think, as most of these things that we often refer to, or at least like opportunities only exist for a short period of time. And I mean, either you sort of jump on them when you have it, or you've lost it.
Yeah.
And this could be one of those opportunities before it might go down the drain.
Yeah.
And
And honestly, like, I think, Alex, the approach is going to be very important. For instance, I did some research on Reddit in the past weeks, and what gets the most engagement is questions. People on Reddit, they like to share their point of view. So what I had a client that did Reddit for a while, and the only way we've used it is we literally, anytime we're working on improving a service or a product for the client posts, what would you like to see when, for example, you pay for this kind of service? And the engagement is super high, and we reply sharing why we do it a certain way or not, and that creates conversation. So more than like, here is what I do, what do you think, we are like, what would you like in a service or product? And people engage. And I find that Reddit is more like useful for getting feedback, and through feedback building brand value, rather than providing a solution.
but isn't that ultimately like how you actually build something?
Yeah.
It's it almost requires two to tango, or a couple to actually get into that dance. And I mean, this is a great opportunity for, I mean, we often sort of speak about, I guess, David versus Goliath. that
Yeah.
Goliath has all these opportunities, and there's not much left in terms of opportunities for David or like the smaller players. But here's a fantastic way for a new brand, new product to really go out and do like product market fit, uh, and really getting to know and find their type particular audience. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
so no, I mean I just because I think like we're very narrowed in terms of how and what we're thinking about that there's an opportunity to do, and I think there's a playbook and everyone plays the same playbook to sort of go about it, rather than trying to think a bit more unconventional, and actually wanting to add value and think. I think about myself. What do I want? Then I try to picture what the users actually would like to see. And that's not the same playbook that everyone else plays because there's nothing unique there.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to monitor, Alex. I think, as you said, this is a big opportunity. So we invite all the listeners to learn about it. Don't just jump into it. Don't just start commenting or posting on Reddit. Just study it first. Figure out what your angle is gonna be like, and just look at how other conversations are going to understand what voice you want to have on the platform. There's gonna be very big opportunity, but of course, one step at a time. As always, you need to plan before executing, otherwise it might backfire. There is a very high chance of Reddit backfiring if you don't do it right. But Alex, before getting toward the conclusion, do you have any advice you would like to give listeners on best practices that you are using on Reddit that you feel are worth sharing?
Putting me on the hot spot. And I think trying to be authentic. I mean, again, like we're back to being the brand. What are you representing? What do you stand for? I mean, when I'm not representing a brand, I represent myself, which is indirectly also a brand. And like, I don't go out under a fake name and sort of plaster sort of things and talk bad about people because that, yeah, makes me feel nice. And I think, but your plan there, take it bite-wise sections. But I think even before that, how I often sort of recommend people that we work with and companies we work with is very much like, okay, you won't be able to do all amazing platforms or channels. Which ones do you feel you have the energy for? And and then we have like, okay, we have YouTube, we have TikTok, we have. Okay, all of these we can talk about the same thing across all these platforms, but they need to be repackaged and purpose like driven with a purpose, so it actually gauges with the rules of engagement. So it's actually very much there, similar to you there, Rocco. Is like, is Reddit for you right here, right now? Do you have the capacity? And if not, okay, cool, check it out. Like tick off. If it is, okay, well then study it and then sort of grow it organically. You can't start something aggressively. And you might sort of start as a brand that sort of engages to start learning also what works and what doesn't work, what gets engagement, what doesn't get engagement. Eventually, you potentially could start your own subreddit,
Yeah,
but then also being aware of that people can then create subreddits of your subreddit that you actually don't control,
yeah.
which at times can be great because having a community driven like uh, Reddit,
It's
which
amazing.
you actually don't engage with because you have very strong individuals running it, and they're all talking positively
If
about you.
that's a nice scenario.
I mean, I've worked a couple of times with diabetes companies, for example. Diabetes, for example, is this type of tight community, and they surround themselves also with, I'd say, before they're being sold to Medtronic and like the big corps, they find sort of their brand that they really like. They create relationships with this, with the brand, because it's this life and death scenario that they're in, and therefore they create this extremely strong community that I've never seen in any other niche so far. But diabetes has been that, and it's been really cool to see that, and it's organically sort of purposely driven.
Interesting. That is interesting. It's very good advice, Alex. And we are getting toward the conclusion here. Alex, I know next month we have a busy schedule, but we are going to let everybody know when our next episodes are. But in the meantime, I wanted to thank you for joining, Alex. As always, a lot of listeners today as well. I think people are very curious about what's going on with Reddit. If you guys have any question, feel free to comment. Write Alex or myself. Alex, thanks again.
Until next time, we might do another one this month. We might see you next week.
Who knows?
Who knows? Ciao.
Bye, everyone.